This video does not endorse, promote, or glorify any form of illegal or harmful activity. Hey guys, young Psychonaut here and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for the subscribers and for all the support lately, and thank you a lot to the members. As you know, from now on I will be uploading every video about like 1 or 2 days in advance to the members. So if you're a member, you'll always see the videos a little early. So yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. Anyway, so let's get into today's video. How not to be a tweaker. And what does tweaking really mean? Well, in my definition, tweaking is just wiling out, tripping. Not in a psychedelic way, more like in you're tripping, bro. Going crazy. Like, yeah, what would be a good example? Like not knowing where you are and really being panicky about it. I guess rolling around on the floor, being incoherent, or just totally kind of like losing it basically while you're doing substances. And I've kind of thought a long time about it, but in essence, tweaking kind of comes down to not being able to handle your substances, or the fact that you're not mentally prepared to face the experience. I have had many instances of when I was in a substance experience and I didn't like it, or it gave me a feeling or an effect where it was not pleasant or I wanted it to stop. But I always handled it diligently. I always just wrote it out, reminded myself that it's a substance, it has a half-life in your body, it's going to go out of your body, etc, etc. So I would not really conceive myself as much of a tweaker. I think I'm really good at handling these kind of substance situations, even if they're negative. But I mean, there's gonna be some moments where I also was almost a tweaker or where I was a tweaker. By the way, guys, sometimes you really do need help. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't situations with substances where you actually need medical assistance or whatever. Like, if those kinds of situations arise, of course you should take precaution and you should take action. But especially with things like psychedelics or like drugs that are not known to cause overdoses really quickly, like for example cannabis, etc., there's like a very slim chance that you will need medical help, because these substances on their own just don't induce those kinds of states in your body where you would need medical help. I'm not saying it doesn't happen ever. I'm just saying that, let's say you're tripping on shrooms and only shrooms and you think you need medical help, there's a very large chance that you probably do not. Especially if you didn't actually have an accident or anything. If you're just feeling like something is wrong, that is probably just the psychedelics or the weed doing their thing. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't instances where this can happen, where you do need medical help, but let's say you find yourself tweaking very hard if you think you instantly need medical help from all these things, or like some other kind of help, like from the police or whatever. I have had a lot of moments in my life where I had crazy tweaker potential and I didn't really follow through with actual tweaking. So let me get into it. It was a day where in the morning I had done some MDMA, some Molly, and it was already like at least like 8 or 9 hours ago that I took the Molly, so it was already like gone, at least from an effect standpoint. And then I thought in the evening, like 9 hours later, I thought, okay, let's take some DXM. So I took a very low amount of DXM, and it instantly, as soon as it started kicking in, it felt really bad. I can't really describe what it was, what I felt, but it just felt like I was going to die. Like something in my body was very wrong and I was dying. Now, this is what I think a lot of people experience, especially for example when they take a way too much edible cannabis, or maybe if they like take way too much of a psychedelic without really having a good understanding of it. And I think most people in this situation would be freaking out. They would be either calling the cops or an ambulance, or they would just be screaming at people around them like something is wrong, I'm dying, etc, etc. And I did none of that. I just simply knew that I wasn't in any physical danger. The MDMA was already at least gone from my system effect-wise. I knew it had something to do with that, so it was probably just like the tail end of the MDMA having a really, really terrible like feeling combined with the DXM. But I knew I couldn't like actually get something really bad from this. I didn't have any physical symptoms. It was just this feeling of having like a really bad like episode of something. So what I did was I just calmed myself down. I just calmed myself down, told myself it's gonna be okay. If some real physical symptoms, like obviously if you're having serotonin syndrome, you should seek medical attention, but I would be sweating bullets, I would be twitching, I would be dry heaving, etc., etc. None of those things were happening, so it was very easy to deduce that I wasn't in any physical danger and I didn't need to tweak out. So I didn't. And after a few hours, it was gone, and that was that. So again, I'm not saying you should just ignore your body, but if you're in a situation where you know you're not in physical danger because the combination of whatever you took or whatever you took just can't have that effect on you, you're probably gonna be fine. It's probably gonna be a good idea to not tweak out. For example, the total opposite, I actually knew a guy once. I knew him really, really closely at that moment. Haven't talked to him in years, but at that moment we knew him really closely. And he had kind of like an alcohol problem, so he drank a lot of wine, like way too much, like multiple bottles a day. And at a certain point he was like, I should stop drinking, and I think he went cold turkey, kind of. Obviously alcohol withdrawals can be extremely dangerous, but he wasn't on that level yet where he could actually have like physical danger from withdrawals. So he stopped using alcohol and he went into kind of these withdrawals, and he actually thought that he was dying. And I mean, if you're really, really, really far into a alcohol withdrawal, like if you have drank like multiple bottles of liquor, hard liquor every day for years, yeah, you can actually die from alcohol withdrawal. But that was not the point where he was at. He was at like a mild alcohol withdrawal, and he thought he was really dying. So he called the ambulance 23 times in one day. And every time they told him like, okay, so what's going on, this, that, they told him like, okay, it seems like you're just having like withdrawal symptoms, so it's gonna be okay. And he just kept calling them. At certain point they actually sent an ambulance, they examined him, everything, it was all fine. I think he got like some diazepam or something to calm him down, but obviously that was also short-lived. And there were like multiple days like this where he called the ambulance like 20 times, and they every time they reassured him like, you're gonna be okay, this is normal, like maybe you should go to like a withdrawal center or whatever, but we can't do anything for you because you're not dying. There's nothing wrong with you. So that is a perfect example of a tweaker. Someone who has been told by medical professional that everything is going to be okay for like 20 times, and he still calls them every half an hour. This is the perfect state of tweaking, where you have been told or you know that you're okay, but you still keep whiling out. You still keep tweaking. You still keep calling or whatever. Like at a certain point, even if it feels really bad, if you're safe, you should accept that you're safe and it's going to be okay. I mean, I have been delirious many times off of combining benzos and MDMA, but even though I've been delirious so many times on that shit, I never really tweaked. It's kind of like in that situation, I had true hallucinations of like, for example, a rolling paper kind of floating through the air, and when I tried to grab it, it was just like nothing. It was not there. I just found this kind of interesting and funny. Even when I talked to the shadow people when I was tripping alone and I was being delirious alone, I was talking to some shadow people, and after I realized that they weren't really there, I was kind of just like, that's interesting. I mean, maybe that's just how my mindset works, but I feel like, yeah, I just don't really understand why you would be extremely scared with that. Maybe also because I was just extremely barred out. It could also be that. But with substances, for me, it always felt like it doesn't help to spaz out or to go crazy. Like, it never helps the situation. Okay, let's say there are actual shadow people there. Let's say that. I don't believe that. I've never believed that. But let's say there's actual shadow people that you're talking to when you're delirious. How would being scared or tweaking help the situation? If they're actually shadow people, then they wouldn't be fazed by that at all. And if they're not real, which is probably very likely, then again, it doesn't help to spaz out. So in my experience, it just never felt like an option to just tweak out. Just didn't make a lot of sense, honestly. Even with paranoia from cannabis, which I do experience, I kind of like just brush it off. I'm just like, oh, that's paranoia from weed. I mean, the thing about tweaking is you just took a substance. So why are you wiling out right now? You know you're on a substance. That's just like with psychedelics where people are like, I saw these things and it was just scary. And I'm like, I'm not devaluating your experience, but I'm just saying like, if you know, like if you're gonna believe what you're seeing on psychedelics, maybe don't take them, or like at least recognize that whatever is going to happen on a psychedelic, it's probably not gonna be canon. As in, it's probably not gonna have an effect on your real life. It's probably just something the psychedelics making you see. So why tweak out about it? There was another story of a real tweaker. We were just chilling with a large group in my house. We were smoking joints. We were rolling these really, really fat joints for like 5 or 10 grams of weed. There was some tobacco in there, so it wasn't purely weed, but it was mostly weed with some tobacco. And we have large tolerances. We smoked like, I don't know, 6 or 7 joints back to back with cigarettes in between, etc., etc. But this time there was this pretty young guy invited. I don't know. We were like 17, 18 at the time. This guy was probably like 14, and somebody brought him in, and I thought he was a stoner. So he just smoked with us. He just joined the sesh basically. And at a certain point, like, he was just totally gone. I guess he didn't really have a tolerance for all this. So he was rolling around the floor. He didn't know where he was. I tried to sit him down in the yard, but it was basically just stumbling around the yard, not knowing what was going on, basically. But I thought, like, my neighbors can see this, so I took him back inside. And I guess he had to be picked up by his parents. I didn't see them. He was just, like, escorted out by the friend that brought him in. But perfect example of a tweaker. Like, actually, like, rolling around on the floor, stumbling around, not knowing what's going on. And you could say like, oh, but it wasn't his fault. I mean, he just didn't know. But like, at a certain point, you know what you've tried in your life. Like, if somebody would hand me a new drug now and he was like, here, take a fat line of this, I would be like, no, maybe I should try to ease into this. Maybe I should kind of like, take a smaller amount first, see how you react, and then if you're comfortable with that, go a little higher. But don't just go with the big leagues at the beginning. That is a sure way to tweak out. So in a nutshell, I would say don't be a tweaker, just know what you can handle. And if you're not sure if you can handle, don't do it. Then you won't tweak out. Wow, it's actually that easy maybe. And I'm not saying there's never a moment where even the best of us are not going to be tweakers. Like me personally, I have had one real tweak moment. I'm going to make a video about this as a Young Psychonaut lore video, but the fear and loathing situation where we just basically wrecked the whole house on a like benzo MDMA delirium, that was the only real moment in my life where I actually tweaked out. Where we actually destroyed the living room, where there was actually a bunch of trash all around us when we woke up. But other than that, I think I've always been able to really accurately gauge how much of something I can take before it gets too much. And I think I'm also someone who really likes, especially now, lower amounts of substances. I feel like going crazy with substances and getting to that tweakage like dosage, it's not that fun. Like I really like it when a substance just barely tickles my receptors and it just gives this little extra instead of just being an all-out tweak moment basically. But yeah, guys, tell me your tweak stories in in the comments. I'm really interested to see how you guys like are with tweaking. Do you tweak a lot? Are you like someone like me who almost never tweaks? Put it in the comments. It would be really interesting to see what you guys think. Anyways, guys, that was the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.